Don't clean the kitchen? Guess supper will be very late then, by user Couragioke 299. I have teenagers. And a hubby who works from home. I work a demanding job with fairly long hours, but I don't mind cooking when I get back as I enjoy it and can whip up a meal in under 20 minutes if I need to. So the deal is, I'll cook and hubby and kids get clean up duty. The problem is that they're all extremely messy and aren't at all bothered by a dirty, messy kitchen, whereas a dirty kitchen is the one thing that really upsets me. So after a long, hard day at work, I'd get back to a filthy, dirty kitchen and have to clean it before I could start cooking. I got tired of nagging and screaming. It just elevated my stress levels. So I would get some food at work, arrive home, sit on the couch and read my book. After a while someone would ask what was for supper. I would say, I don't know. I can't really do much in a dirty kitchen. And carry on reading my book. I would not end up cooking that evening as it got too late and everyone else would have to have cheese on toast, much to their disgust. Now when I get home the kitchen is spotless and the dishwasher on. Problem solved. Gave my ex a surprise when I left unexpectedly, by user Griggs by John. My ex and I were planning on separating. It was a toxic relationship. He was a controlling narcissist and I had been under his thumb for far too long. I was in counseling and my therapist and I mapped out the best way for me to get out, although the details of the plan were my idea. I got a better paying job. I opened my own bank account. That was a huge fight, and I figured out where to go. He knew I was leaving and he even went through the house and marked all of the things that were his that I couldn't take with me. Which was basically everything we purchased throughout our 13 years together. I was only allowed to take the items that I came with when we moved in together. He planned to take the day off from work on a particular Saturday and would be there to supervise my move to ensure that I only took what he approved. That's where my plan began. The Saturday before his planned date, I scheduled to move after he left for work. He worked long days so I knew I could pack and leave before he returned. About an hour after he left, my friends and family showed up with boxes and tape and a moving truck. I parked it out back so my neighbors didn't see it. In less than 4 hours all of my belongings were packed and on the truck and I pretty much stuck to his rules, because I didn't want reminders of our life in my future. Before I left in the truck, I went through and grabbed every single towel, washcloth, sheet, toilet paper, paper towel, napkin, and tissue. I took anything and everything that he could wipe his butt or his nose with. And I took the carpet runner that was at the front door, leaving the tape that secured it to the floor. That way he knew as soon as he walked in, that I was gone. Imagine coming home from work after a long day, expecting one thing and finding another and then not having a single tissue or toilet paper to use. My best revenge was building a happy new life, but that day made me feel so good. Edit, for those who care, yes, actually diagnosed. We were originally in therapy together. I forgot to add that he deemed the bed as his so I couldn't take it. But he never mentioned the mattress and box spring, which I also took. Set a trap and got the laziest guy fired, by user Sharpflingax. A few years ago, I worked at a hospital in the environmental services where I gathered up the accumulated trash and medical waste to be disposed of. It wasn't a hard job, and worked well for someone like me with ADHD as it involved lots of walking. I could usually get lots of the hospital clear by my lunch break as we worked in pairs to clear the building, but then we had a new guy come in. His name was Ben. He seemed nice, but soon things began going downhill. I showed up for work one day and the bins were overflowing. Then the next day, and the next day were the same. I'd have so much garbage being accumulated that I wouldn't be halfway done with my section by lunch and had no time to get the medical waste taken out. I complained multiple times to management who were also getting heat for the piling up of waste. We all suspected Ben wasn't doing his job, but we couldn't find proof and he was honestly a good liar. So I decided to set a trap. One Friday I saw that the bin in one area was overflowing, and that particular wing of the hospital would be closed on the weekend so the trash wouldn't change. I took a photo of the bin and left it there unattended knowing Ben would be working the weekend. I came in on Monday and checked the same bin and saw it was exactly the same. I took another photo and showed my boss. Within minutes she was calling Ben into the office and confronted him. He tried his usual lies, but when I showed the evidence he just sat there stone-faced. Turns out he spent most of his day hiding in the hospital and messing around on his phone. He was fired and blackballed from all the departments of the hospital. Felt good knowing I did him in. My teacher thought they knew my name better than me, by user top_requirement 8016. This was years ago now when I was in secondary school, around 15 years old. We used to have form in the morning where the teacher would take the register and let you know about anything going on in the school before you went to your other classes. My form tutor was a miserable old woman that was a renowned arsehole. There were several stories I could tell about her, but this one is the only time I got the better of her. My parents named me a shortened version of posh-sounding name. For the sake of the story, let's say they called me Alex, which is short for Alexander. Whenever this woman would call my name, she would always use Alexander. I brought up to her that it was not my name multiple times and asked her to please call me Alex, as that's what my parents called me. She would always get angry and tell me, "Don't be stupid, no one is named Alex. Your name is Alexander, Alex is just what you want to be called." No matter how much I insisted, she refused. At one point she gave me a detention for asking her to call me my correct name. The school called to let my parents know I had been given a detention for arguing with New York teacher. When I told my parents I was supposed to have a detention for asking my teacher to call me the right name, they were not happy. So they gave me a trump card to use against her, my birth certificate. The next day when she called my name, I once again told her that wasn't my name. She threatened me with another detention, so I pulled out the birth certificate, put it down on her desk and said, "My birth certificate says my name is Alex, so that's what you will call me, thanks." The look on her face was priceless, and she started calling me my actual name for the rest of the time I was in her class. Abusive ex refused to move out, so I did it for her in the most inconvenient way possible, by user J. Backman. I was inspired to share this after reading the top post today. I had broken up with my ex about a year prior to this event, but she wouldn't move out, one excuse after another for a solid year, until one day, amidst yet another argument, she finally admitted her plan was to stay indefinitely, and threatened to claim domestic abuse if I did anything about it. That weekend she decided to go out for one of her weekend vacations with a girlfriend, so I took advantage of the 48 hours I had and got to work reserving a storage unit and rented a moving truck. I worked around the clock loading that truck multiple times, only sleeping a few hours that entire weekend. She had hoarding tendencies that I had long turned a blind eye to, had to pick my battles, and it had gotten pretty far out of control. Not only did I make dozens of trips, but the storage unit itself was almost too small for it all. It was truly amazing how much crap she had managed to pack floor to ceiling in multiple rooms, closets, and the garage, despite living in the same house together for so long. I made sure her laptop was the very first thing in the storage unit, all the way in the back corner, followed by all of her clothes, so many fucking clothes, then furniture, then all the meaningless hoarded junk. By the time I was done, that storage unit was packed floor to ceiling, to the point I had to really Tetris the last couple of loads in there just to get the door shut. She was right at the end of a semester of school and not only needed the laptop first thing the next week, she was also planning on leaving for a cross-state road trip to visit family, and everything she needed for that was at the very back. From what I heard, it took her and a friend the better part of the week to find that laptop and repack the storage unit. She missed some important deadlines at school and delayed her family trip by a whole week, which messed up other plans and wasted a few PTO days at work to boot. The best part came months later. You see, when she first came back from that little weekend vacation, I had asked her to sign a receipt to receive the key to the storage unit. She immediately refused, threw a fit, tried to steal my dog, failed, tried breaking into my house while I was gone, then came back hours later with about 6 cops in her wake. To this day I don't know what lies she told them to get that entourage, but after I explained my side of the story, they realized it was just a civil matter and quickly left. The receipt I asked her to sign was simple enough in that I offered to pay for the storage unit for 6 months if she signed it that day, but since she didn't, I removed my card from the account and put the unit in her name. Only problem was, the card she then put on file with them was an authorized user card linked to my account, which I promptly cancelled, so then she missed enough payments on the storage unit that they locked her out and she was never able to get the rest of her stuff before they presumably auctioned it all off.